All right, what are we talking about today? So, I want to just give a brief explanation, introduction to what dynamical systems theory even is. What is it all about? What's happening with it? I've tried to simplify it as much as I can. There's a lot of different moving parts here, a lot of different, very interesting uh, sort of paths you can go down. But I wanted to just give a brief overview so, anytime I refer to it in the future, or even for your own information, you can sort of understand. Easiest dynamical system to understand, I'm going to give an example of before I give a full explanation, is evolution. So what's happening in evolution, right? Well, people are having children, and sometimes their children are successful, and then they have more children, or sometimes their children are less successful and they have less children, right? And so the next generation is made up of uh, these more and less children, and then the more you know, profitable or prosperous genes get passed on, and the ones who are less prosperous don't get passed on. I like the example of a psychopath, of psychopathy, right? It's easy for us to be like, no, oh, that's why does this even exist? What's happening with this, right? Why would we have it? It doesn't make sense. They're just bad guys, psychopaths. But let's think evolutionarily, right? Let's try to think from that perspective. Well, if you're in a little tribe, right? Your little tribe, and there's another tribe with no psychopaths. And your tribe, you got a new, one kid grew up, he's a psychopath. Okay, cool. What does this mean? Well, he's not going to care a lot about you guys. That's true. He's probably going to stick with you because it's his best chance of survival. But it's definitely not like, the most caring person. So you definitely lose out on that. But what you gain is probably somebody who's willing to take risks, someone who's not blinded by fear. So when there's a darkness in front of you, this guy will run right into it. He doesn't care, right? When there's difficult decisions to be made, this guy will make a decision. He doesn't, it's all about him or her, but there are values to it, and it can make your society, your group, more successful. In fact, we have evidence that it did in the fact that they are in existence, in the fact that psychopaths exist. That's evidence that uh, psychopaths make uh, those hunter-gatherer communities more successful. But you're saying, well, what's happening next? Well, then there's going to just be more psychopaths. Well, we do create. So then imagine a community with 10 psychopaths, right? Because this community was my community, super successful. We had one. Now we have two. Now we have four. Whoa, now we have 10. Okay. So now we have 10 psychopaths because this gene has been propagated fairly rapidly because we're more successful than other communities. All right. Well, now what starts to happen? Well, maybe they start fighting against each other. Now we also lose out because less people care about each other. There's less social cohesion, right? Before it was just one guy who didn't really care. Now it's 10. Now they're fighting, like I said, against each other. Now, instead of one guy leading, now four or five, 10 people are trying to tell us what to do in times of crisis, and they're all telling us different things because they all value different things and they all care only about themselves. Now it starts to be a problem. Now we don't survive as long. Boom. And so what happens is over the generations, we find the optimal amount of psychopaths for survival. And so that's what we're trying, that's what evolution does in any situation, right? Or for any specific trait, is it's trying to find the optimal amount, right? The optimal grip, the optimal fittedness is what you'll hear a lot of people in cognitive science talk about. Optimal fittedness. So a dynamical system is a system in which the agent and arena are both constantly changing, and yet, and what it's explaining, what this systems theory is explaining, is how then does this agent try to optimally grip reality, optimally fit in with the reality that's constantly changing, right? And it's through, things like evolution. We do the same thing um, when we are living our lives, right? As we grow up, we create frames of the world, we have them challenged. Same sort of idea like evolution. I want to give you a better example, though. Think about walking. Now, I don't think nobody really understands what walking is because nobody thinks about it. You just walk. I'm like, of course, like, what are you talking about? I put one foot in front of the other. We walk. Well, what is walking? Well, it's sort of like an organized falling. You're falling forward, you're catching yourself. Okay, cool. You're like, I know how to do that. Well, how do you walk on, say you're putting, you know, you're walking down the street. How does this happen? What you're doing is you're creating a mental image, a mental map, a schema uh, of what this road is going to look like, right? I'm going down the pavement down the street. I've been on it before. I know it's fairly flat, so I expect a fairly flat surface. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to put one foot in front of the other straight down, or with my heel slightly before uh, my toes, right? And I'm going to continue to do that. But what happens when there's a big, crack in the cement, right? Suddenly, my mental image is updated with new information. Okay, so suddenly, what's happening is it's sort of like what I talked about with the psychopaths, right? My mental map is good. Psychopaths are good, right? My mental map of the ground is good. We're doing good. We're doing good. I'm relying on it more. More psychopaths. More psychopaths. But then I hit the ground and oh no, there's a crack. Oh, okay. So I update my understanding. I update what I believe. I update this mental map of the ground in front of me, and so I move forward with more caution, and maybe I'll augment the way I take steps so that I don't step on cracks. So that maybe I'll look down a few more times, glance down, and realize, um, there's some cracks in front of me. I gotta step over them. We do this with everything. I know it seems sort of obvious when you explain it, but it's something I think for generations people haven't fully grasped. I mean, some people haven't certainly. Um, I want to talk about then sort of two understandings of the world, which show two sides of this same coin, which dynamical systems bridge between. So there's a more romantic idea of the world, and then there's the more sort of rigid naturalist, um, you know, scientifically based, obviously cognitive science, mathematically based understanding in which we're saying everything is factual, sort of like the philosophy of utilitarianism, right? This is the right thing to do. This is always the right thing to do, no matter what. So this is going to be a bit of a leap, and I hope we sort of understand it. But the two perspectives of the world are one that human experience is just an input of information, right? We're just reacting to information. It's just everything's out here in the world, everything's out in the world, and all that's happening is I'm getting hit with that and I'm reacting accordingly, right? And if that was true, if it was just me feeling the world and reacting to the world, how would I walk? I would have to be looking at my feet because I don't know what's in front of me. I don't know what's in front of me. Okay, so I'm going to take information in, look at it, and then I'm going to take a step onto the ground. And then I'm going to take a step onto the ground and feel it. That's how it would have to be in a world in which you're only taking in information, right? The other view is a romantic view. That's fairly prevalent throughout history. A romantic view of history and how humans interact with the world is like sort of just out here is nothing. Out here doesn't even exist. It's all up here. It's all my belief. It's all my perception that's reality. Perception is reality. All this, that's a very postmodern belief, right? And so, in that belief, when I'm taking steps, It's only my map, right? So I believe that this is a flat surface. So I'm going to take steps as if it's a flat surface. But if I believe that the cement out there has steps on it, right? There's steps going up. Um, and then I walk as if there are steps. I'm not going to go up, right? There's not going to be anything there. Just because I believe it does not make reality as such. Because what's happening is not just what's called a top-down constraint. It's not just reality telling me you can't do this, you can do this. It's not just me taking in information and reacting to that information. No, no, no. That's not how human experience is working. It's also not, though, what's called bottom-up curation. It's not just me deciding, I want to go here, I want to do this, I want to walk upstairs now. It's not just in my mind, and it's not just in reality. Human experience isn't just in me, and it's not just out there. It's between these things. It's this dynamical view in which I have perceptions which are justified to the best of my understanding, right? I know this road. I'm taking in a bunch of information. I've looked at it. Okay, cool. It looks flat, looks straight, looks like maybe a 10-degree gradient or whatever I'm perceiving. And then I'm going to react to that information. And then when I'm forced with that top-down constraint, right, then I will update my understanding and say, no, I was wrong. This is dynamical systems theory in a very, very, very small nutshell. There's a lot more to it, but I hope this is sort of helpful. The core ideas I want to go over one more time, make sure we all understand them, is sort of these evolution ideas, right? The idea of bottom-up curation, the bottom-up creation of an idea of how the world is working, acting as if that's true, right? Then top-down constraint, the world is telling me, oh no, actually, that's not true, and this is why, right? I'm in a world, one psychopath is good. I'm like, well, that's good enough information. We should create more psychopaths. Okay, we create 10 psychopaths. Then, so that was my bottom-up curation, 10 more psychopaths. Top-down constraint is, no, no, no. You don't need 10. 10 is actually negative. And so we're going to cut it back down. We're going to update our understanding, realize, and find that optimal growth. This is what we're trying to do in our life. This is our whole point of our existence, is to find an optimal gripping of reality. And I'll talk about this more in future episodes. If this interests you, let me know. And I don't know. I hope to talk about this more in the future. All right. Thank you, guys.